This morning I'm going to be talking about being lukewarm, a lukewarm Christian. A lukewarm Christian. Before I get started, I've got a little something I want to let everyone do. I've got some water in cups over here. I'm going to let y'all take a drink of it. It's just regular water. Nothing been added to it. It's plain water. And I want everyone to take a drink of it. Now the water that you all just drank was pretty refreshing, wasn't it? It's pretty cold, tasted good. It's something that if you spend a long day out working, that you would definitely want to help refresh you because you're exhausted from the heat and it would help cool your body down. Revelation chapter 3, verse 15, 16 says, I know your works, that you are neither hot or cold. I could wish that you were cold or hot. So then, because you are lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will vomit you out of my mouth. There are several signs of a lukewarm Christian. In fact, there are so many that if I listed them all, we would be here all week. And I'm sure y'all don't hear me carry on all week in a sermon. And so, since I don't have all the time to list them all, I've composed a list of 5 signs that you may, or someone you know, may be a lukewarm Christian. And they're on the back of your bulletin. You can fill in the blanks as we go. But please let me say this. If this sermon or this message here hits home for any of you, if I'm hitting on your nails or stomping on your toes a little bit, take heed. Do some changing. Because there will be horrible consequences for your actions. So number 1, the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea has nothing living. There's nothing living in the Dead Sea. It is even too toxic to drink. That's why it's called the Dead Sea. Because it cannot contain life. But feeding into it, there's the life-giving River Jordan, which also feeds the Sea of Galilee. This sea is teeming with is gleaming with life and full of life, and the waters are abundantly clear. So what's the difference? A, the Sea of Galilee receives, but it also gives. In order to be a good Christian, we're taught to give. We're taught to give. We receive because we give. We are taught to give. The Dead Sea just receives, and it doesn't give anything back. If we begin our daily walk as to where we only want to reap the benefits that never put back into it, or put into it, then we will soon reap all of our harvest out. In order to get back what you're putting into something, you first have to plant. You first have to put something into it to get something out of it. Okay? Now, alright, for instance, if you went to work tomorrow, and you went there and you just sat all day, first 2 days, the boss might not pick up too much on it the first day, but you sit there all of the second day and do nothing. Or if I'm paying you to do a job and you come over and you sit around and you don't do the job, should you get paid for that job? Absolutely not. Because you didn't put anything into it. You didn't put anything into it worthy of the wages that you should receive. We have to sow our seed in order to reap a good harvest. A seed has to be sown. Galatians chapter 6, 7 through 9 tells us, do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a man sows, that he will reap. For he who sows his flesh will reap of the flesh of corruption. But he who sows of the Spirit will reap of the Spirit, reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Like the one who reaps and doesn't sow at all, all they want to do is reap and not receive or give anything back. So they might be a lukewarm Christian. If all you're wanting to do is take and take and take and take and take and not put anything into it, chances are you might be a lukewarm Christian. And that's what Christ warned about in the book of Revelation, the verse I read when I started the message. If you're lukewarm, he's going to vomit you out. You're not giving you're not refreshing. But all you are simply, you're turning the stomach. You're turning the stomach. Number 2, the sin of silence. Whenever we're around other people and we have opportunities to share the gospel with them, do we keep our mouth shut? Do you keep your mouth shut? Or catch yourselves often biting your tongue? Passing on the opportunity to share Christ with others. Perhaps it's with family, because oftentimes that can sometimes be one of the most difficult groups of people to share your faith with. Now why is that? Because they know you. Your Christian life, when you're out especially with family, not with all the world, but family in general, your life should reflect the life of Christ, should reflect Christ. They should see Christ living in you. So if you're around family members, and you're kind of worried about sharing your faith with family members, is it because you're not really walking the Christian walk? Because they know who you are? They know what type of person you are when you're out in public? Or are you ashamed to share your faith? Do you ever share your faith with family members? Now, it is not the time to try self-justification here. This is not the time to say, well, I would but this. Or, well, I would but this. You don't understand my family. You don't know my family. You don't know my friends. You don't know them. You don't understand them. You don't understand how hard it is. It's not the time for self-justification. It's not the time for self-justification. I think we can all do better in sharing our faith with others. I don't think that any of us are going really far out of our way to share our faith, as far as we should go. I don't think any of us are putting ourselves in a bind by saying if you're in a store somewhere, or you're in a doctor's office, by talking with people around you and sharing your faith with them. I don't think any of us are really going over our way to share our faith too much. We want to be a convenient people, but we only want to share it when it's convenient for us, but that's not the case. When Paul was in prison, what was he doing? He was sharing his faith. He was sharing his faith when he was in prison. Now, was it convenient for him to share his faith at the time? Was it easy for him? Probably not. Because you got to think, he wasn't the only one in that prison. He wasn't the only one there. But he was still sharing his faith and not concerned about what the world could do to him or what they could do to him. Have you got the sin of silence? B, we have an obligation to share our faith with others. We have an obligation to go and share our faith as Christians with others. Matthew 28:19-20 says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." We are told to go and share our places. Share our faith in places. And it doesn't necessarily, he's not saying, I only want you to share it when it's convenient for you. I only want you to share it when you're not really going to be judged by your faith, or when you're going to be persecuted for your faith. That's not how I want you to share. He's not saying that. He said to go into all all nations, even the ones that's going to hate you, going to abuse you, and spitefully use you, He wants you to still share your faith with them. Because you know what? That's what the world did to Him. Because He was sharing the news of the gospel. Yes, there were many people that hated Him and rejected Him. I'd say a lot of the people, probably most of the people that He shared His faith with, or knew who He was and what He was teaching, hated Him for what He was teaching. Because it was against their customs. It was against the old law, the Mosaic law. It was going back on it was bucking against it. And they hated Him for it. Because they didn't want to change. They didn't want to accept who He was. It's not only our obligation because we are commanded to do it, but it's something we should feel the need and want and desire to do. C, we should not be ashamed, or we shouldn't be ashamed to share our faith. Christ told us very clearly in Luke 9:26, "For whoever is ashamed of me and my words, of him the Son of Man will be ashamed, when He comes in His own glory and in His Father's and the holy angels." We shouldn't be ashamed to share our faith of the one who gave His life for ours or for us. We should be honored to share our faith and the gospel with others. We should be honored to share that with others. We should feel eager or the urge to share our faith with a sin-sick world. We should be eager to share it. We should share it holding nothing back. Because you know what? If you're a Christian, somebody had to share it with somebody for it to get to you. And do you appreciate your faith? Do you appreciate the salvation that's been given to you? Absolutely. Somebody had to share it with somebody before you was here on this earth for it to get to you. Somebody had to share it with somebody. Somebody felt the obligation and the need to share it with somebody else, and so on down the line. We should feel the same need and be eager to share our faith. Number 3, living like the world. If we are conforming to the world instead of standing against it, then we might be in trouble. We might be in trouble. If your friends crude joke telling, or if you are gossiping with others, or using vulgarity, then you might be in trouble. If you're doing things that you dared not do in church, or in front of your minister, or elders, deacons, or when you first became a Christian, chances are that you are doing it for the wrong reasons and that you really should not be doing it. If you're too ashamed to do what you do outside of these four walls when you're here, or do it here, then you should be ashamed doing it outside on your normal living life. You should be ashamed. Chances are you need to do some recalculating, as your GPS would usually say. Recalculating. Maybe it's time for you to start getting back on track because you went way off track. Maybe you need to recalculate where you're going and what you're doing. There's some recalculating in store. D, to conform to the world is to become an enemy of God. To conform to the ways of the world is to become an enemy of God. James 4:4 tells us, "Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." Being two-faced or a hypocrite is a true warning sign of being lukewarm. Saying one thing and doing another is a true warning sign of being a lukewarm Christian. Perhaps you have allowed yourself to hang around the wrong crowd too long. Perhaps you have started overlooking things that shouldn't be overlooked because it's been like a little wedge. Started out small, normally you would overlook it. But now, it's just, that's all right. It's all right. I'll pay no attention to it anymore. Maybe you've allowed yourself to go too long without prayer and not communicating with God. All of these are recipes for disaster. Every one of them is a recipe for disaster. If things that offended you when you first became a Christian, language, perhaps watching certain shows you shouldn't be watching, if all these were offensive when you first became a Christian, they should be just as offensive as they are now. Because that's how water being lukewarm starts. You start out good and cold, or you start out good and hot and on fire for the Lord. But soon the ice, or perhaps the heat, is turned up to cool you off a little bit. Or the ice is added to you to cool you off, or the heat's turned up to heat you up a little bit. And then when that happens, you become lukewarm. Because you're not one extreme or the other. You're right there in between. A fence straddler, I guess you could say. If it's wrong in the Scriptures and it offended you one time before, it should still offend you now in your daily walk. All of which are recipes for disaster. Number 4, guilty conscience. Let me ask you something. Let's say we're going down the road and all of a sudden your check engine light comes on. You're going down the road and all of a sudden your check engine light comes on. Do you just keep driving around in hopes that by some miracle it will just turn itself off? Let's say it's a brand new vehicle. You just purchased that vehicle from a car lot. Has 0 miles on it. 0 miles on it. And all of a sudden you're driving down the road. You're so proud of this vehicle, you take pictures of it, showing it to your friends, you're showing it off because, I really like this car. Then boom, the check engine light comes on. Are you going to just ignore it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why? Because it's a brand new car. It's a brand new car, you just bought it, and you put hard work, blood, sweat, and tears into saving up money to purchase this car, and you haven't put maybe 2 or 3 miles on it, and bam, the engine light comes on. Is this something you're just going to ignore? No. No. What are you going to do? You're going to drive and take it right back to the dealership where you bought it, and demand they give you another vehicle. Fix what's wrong with that one already before you leave that lot. You're going to demand they either give your money back or they're going to make an exchange. One way or another, you're going to attempt to make things right because you don't want to be cheated. The same thing can apply to our Christian walk. It goes for ourselves. The same thing goes for us. When you're in your Christian life and you're walking down this way here, and all of a sudden, bam, your check engine light comes on. Don't ignore it. Take care of the problem right away. Do not let it go. Take care of it right then. E, self-examination is where this one comes in. The Apostle Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5, says, examine yourselves as to whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not know yourselves that Christ Jesus is in you, unless indeed you are disqualified? This is something we do every Lord's Day. We do it before we take of the Lord's Supper or communion. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 28 says, "Let a person examine himself then, and so eat of the bread and drink of the cup." We are to examine ourselves before we do it. Because we know in the previous week before this, perhaps you allowed things to happen that shouldn't have happened. Perhaps you allowed sin to slowly enter in and slowly start cooling you off or heating you up to get in that middle ground of being lukewarm. This is the time we examine ourselves. Our self-examination should be a common occurrence in our daily walk with the Lord, and not just on the first day of the week. A little self-examination never hurt anyone, myself included. When you sit back and you truly do a self-examination on yourself, on how you're living your life, it never hurt anyone. And if you find a little bump in the road or a hiccup, or the engine light's on, it's time to take care of the problem. It's time to take care of the problem. Number 5, no hunger or thirst. If you find you stop praying, or pray very little, or if you have no desire to read the Bible, or do very little reading, then you have a problem with your appetite. You have lost your hunger and thirst for righteousness. And that's a scary place to be in, friends. That's a scary place to be in. A place where you no longer thirst or hunger for God is a scary place to be in. Matthew chapter 5, verse 6 says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled." Now it doesn't say, "Blessed are those who are full," because I don't think anyone can be spiritually full at any point in time. It should be something we're always doing, just like our physical bodies. You get filled up a little bit this week, or you eat supper, you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Why do you have 3 meals a day? Because sometime after breakfast, you're going to get hungry again. So you have lunch. Okay? Sometime after lunch, you're going to get hungry again. So you have supper. And if you're like me, I like to eat a little bit in between too. Because I can never get full, it seems like. Okay? The same thing spiritually. Don't just say, "Well, it's Sunday, I'm just going to go here and I'm going to read my Bible today and I'm going to listen to the message and I'm going to fill in the bulletin and I'm going to do this." It's not just a weekly thing, because if you used to go a week without eating, you'd probably wind up in the hospital. If you used to go a week without anything to drink, you would probably wind up in the hospital. And after so long, it's going to cause a physical death. Your body's going to start shutting down. The same thing in our spiritual walk. Constantly be hungering and thirsting and trying to fill your spiritual tank. David didn't have this problem while he was in the wilderness, and wrote in Psalm 63, chapter 1, it says, "God, you are my God. Early will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you in a dry and thirsty land where there is no water." He was thirsting for him, and he was hungry for him. He was in a dry and thirsty land where there is no water. He was trying to fill his spiritual tank. David clearly was a man after God's own heart. He knew where the satisfaction for his thirst and his hunger came from. He was constantly thirsting and starving for God in his daily walk, simply because he knew he couldn't live without God's filling love and guidance. He could not live without it. We can't either. We cannot spiritually live without it. We cannot physically live without it. Some are pushing him away, but spiritually you cannot live without it. Now, here's what I want to do here. I got cups of water here. I want each one to take a drink of it. The second cup of water was not near as refreshing as the first, was it? Why? Because it was lukewarm. The same thing Christ warned us about in the book of Revelation. Because you are neither hot nor cold, I will vomit you out of my mouth. I will vomit you out of my mouth. I've never known anyone to be out putting a hard day's work in a hot summer sun, come in and say, man, give me a glass of that lukewarm water. Give me a glass of that lukewarm tea. You come in and you want something cold to help cool you off. Or on a cool winter day or ice, and it's negative, it's down in the 20s outside. I've never heard somebody come in and say, I'd like to have a bowl of lukewarm soup. No. You want it hot. Now, my question for you, the lukewarm water was not nearly as appetizing, was it? It was not nearly as fulfilling. The same thing goes for our Christian walk. If you're lukewarm, it's not going to be as spiritually appetizing. If you're lukewarm and the fence straddler, Christ don't want that. He wants you to be all in or nothing at all. In closing, I pray that if you found yourself to be lukewarm, that you don't stay that way. That you don't allow yourself to be vomited out of the mouth of Christ. And I pray that you heat back up and burn with the fire and zeal you first had when you first gave your life away to God. I pray that we don't conform to this world. Instead, we allow God, the Word of God, to transform us. If you are not a Christian, I pray that you become a new burning fire for the Lord, with a flame that you will never allow to become extinguished. Why not do that this morning? Don't be lukewarm.